I've been putting a lot of time into our little embargoed game, so I suppose I could go back in time to last weekend where I inhaled,
literally
snorted Kena, Bridge of
Yeah,
Spirits.
so the way she says it in the game is Kana,
Yeah, it's Kena.
but then other people say Kina, and I'm like, where are you getting that from? So it's definitely not Kenna, like we were saying.
No, we are plebs. So it's interesting because the last time we spoke about the game, I think you hadn't played it yet at all, hey?
No,
but
and I've only played about an hour now. Yeah.
But I mean, I'd played the first hour, I guess, maybe hour and a bit. And then I've since gone and, finished the whole game. I'd literally played the entire weekend, and I'm very, very happy to say that it is a fantastic game. Like you and I have many times have expressed doubts. We expressed doubt before the game launched of like, oh no, we've seen trailers, it looks good. Will it actually play that well? And bar some hiccups, I think I'm genuinely floored that this animation studio, Ember Lab, were able to pull off this as their first game. Like it's kind of surreal that you can get it this right the first time. It's
a good debut attempt.
Yeah,
and that's something that, I mean, we've seen a lot of indie studios knock it out the park with debuts like
it's not digital. It's not impossible. It's just it's
still impressive, especially coming from a studio that's not game design focused. You know what I mean?
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. You've played about an hour. What are your thoughts in the game?
I mean, so far, just like echoing what you said last week, it really holds up visually. I think it's very beautiful.
It's pretty AF.
It's definitely got some aged elements to it, like the hard cuts between like you just saw in the footage now between cutscene and gameplay feels very,
it's jarring.
I don't know, just old. So, but at the same time, it just looks the part of a modern game. So far, I haven't really got into big like mechanics yet, but the combat feels good. I think it feels a lot better than I thought it would. The platforming feels a bit odd, like you alluded to last week. There's just something odd about the jump. It doesn't feel what I expected to feel.
I was saying to you, I've since, if I had to put my finger on it, it's the fact that when you do a double jump, you slow down on the second jump, which
you don't maintain that momentum.
It's just weird. I don't know why that happens. It's almost like you should either just keep the momentum or gain a little bit. But the fact that you slow down, it makes jumping from platform to platform feel risky because you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make it because I'm losing momentum on the second jump. So I better make sure I like really jump far forward. So,
which is strange because you're sometimes pairing it with like sprints. So I'm not entirely sure why. And I find the animation associated to the jump, the like leg tuck, just doesn't feel right.
You almost expect a forward flip or something. I mean, that's something we expect, I guess. But it
just makes the jump feel a lot smaller than it actually is because like she's tucking her legs like she's hardly, it's these things like. Again, game design, so difficult. Like, it's such a small thing that feels wrong, but I can't really articulate why it feels as wrong as it does. But at the same time, like, if I'm playing a game with good platforming, it's just like, this is a platformer. Like, it's very hard to say why a Mario jump feels as perfect as it does. And there is a science to it. Like, there is pixel perfect science. Yeah. It's been fine-tuned to hell and back. But it just shows that even the simplest things like a jump, and I know this because trying to implement a jump in games I've made is just like, wow, this is like the hardest thing I've ever done. Like making it feel exactly how it should feel like. So, the other thing that I find a bit weird is the voice acting. I think it's like, I don't know. I guess it comes down to probably like budget, but it feels very odd.
It feels a bit like, sorry for the term, but like under budget, if that makes sense. It's like you've got this visually gorgeous game and then the voice acting just doesn't quite meet that same standard. It's not bad by any means. It's just, you're not getting Troy Baker or any of the the AAA voices you might associate with a game like this. At least that's my perception.
No, I fully agree with you. It feels a bit stilted and jarring, and the I guess the sort of writing is very very stock, like fantasy fair. It doesn't feel, at least yet, like anything interesting.
I will say so, because you where I was last week, the game does have some great story beats. Like you as Kano are basically, you're trying to, free the corruption from this village, which means sort of putting the stories of spirits to rest. They're here for a reason. You need to sort of help them pass on.
You basically, this is actually the third person action adventure game of Spiritfarer.
It really is. And yeah, those moments are like that. I found maybe the writing's not like, again, sorry for the lack of a better term, not AAA, but the actual story beats, there are a lot of very heartfelt moments in the game, which were great. Like, I really enjoyed them. And they're often preceded by a boss fight, which, let me tell you, I did not expect the boss fights in this game to be as good as they are. Like, they're not that many bosses, I'd say. You get a lot of bigger mobs that you fight for the first time, which is, sort of labeled as a boss fight or mini boss. But the game itself has, I'd say, maybe 4 to 5 like actual proper big bosses with big health bars and everything. And like, I would say that it's not quite on the level of, say, a From game, but there are moments in those boss fights that made me feel like, holy shit, this is very well designed. Like, the phases that you have to learn, the attacks that happen, just the actual, how the music and the atmosphere ties into the gameplay. It's surreal. I'd really recommend, like, for you, if you maybe, putting this off because you got other shit to play, like, maybe just play enough that you get to the first big story beats where you free the first spirit. It's quite something. Like, I can't give the game enough praise on that front. Because even then, I'm like, you're just an animation studio. How did you get this so right?
And again, like, we're talking about how complex, like, jumps are, I think, when it comes to things like how good does a boss feel and how does it harmonize with the combat. That's a whole other argument.
Exactly,
Yeah. So that's really great to hear. I did take your advice and started on, like, the hardest. Well, the hardest difficulty is locked, so I took the hardest that was available. And I nearly died in one of the first sub bosses because I was just being reckless. So I'm definitely getting that vibe, and I think the combat is solid enough that it doesn't make that feel frustrating.
It's interesting because you and I are having, be people who have played the likes of Sekiro or Bloodborne or Dark Souls. I have found people saying that the combat is difficult. Like, even the, the normal difficulty is a bit too challenging in some instances. And I can get that, because if you're not used to this sort of combat, then it's going to be overwhelming to, do you dodge, when do you attack, when do you try parry, that sort of thing. But I was telling one of my colleagues that I think what's quite nice about this game, so the game doesn't explicitly tell you, I don't think, but a parry is very much how it works in any other game. You have to time your block, at the right second, and then, it'll parry. At the very least, I found that this game is quite forgiving, that if you mistime your parry, you still have your shield to absorb the blow.
Yeah.
Which is quite cool. Like, I think that is an interesting idea that could work very easily in other games. It's like it's a bit of a safety net, if I could call it that.
I find the parry window quite small. I was messing around with it.
Apparently they buffed it though. They really patched it that it's slightly bigger. So I don't know if I had it before or after the update, but it has since been, because people were complaining that the window's very small.
Maybe I'm still getting used to the window then, but I was trying it on the first, like, big sub boss, and I was just missing it. Like, and like you said, you still got your shield, but at the same time, they get you with a bit of that double whammy where the parry is depleted. But at least it's not like Sekiro where
you die.
You can only parry if you press the button. If you hold, then it's a completely different thing. Here, it's like, if you hold at the right time, you still get the parry. So that's actually a pretty great observation that I didn't think about. So you can still, if you whiff that parry, you can still block the damage. But then you've still got like a dodge, and I feel like your light and heavy attacks, the way it feels like you've got a soft lock on the enemies, even though you're not like hard locking on them, it feels great. It's really good, and it's fluid. It's quite fast and feels good.
Yeah, I think I am definitely gonna revisit this game in a quieter period to play it on the harder difficulty now, and maybe grab that platinum.
I mean, I was about to ask that. Knowing you, have you taken a look at how the platinum looks?
Yeah, so that difficulty is actually tied to a trophy, so you do have to play it on the harder difficulty.
Okay,
but there are what you'd expect. There's a trophy for collecting every cursed chest. There's a trophy for collecting every single rot, whatever. So that sort of stuff, like I'm obviously going to try to do it myself. But if there's stuff I'm missing, I'm just going to look it up. Just tick those boxes.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at this footage now, and you put on a mask? Mm-hmm. This is Majora's Mask. Oh my god.
So this is just before my footage dies, unfortunately. But basically you get the mask of, the spirit you're trying to free, and you can use that to see hints around the world. So look at it here, I'll show you. Oh, okay. It's like, more or less my footage just stutters and it dies. I don't know.
I like that it when you put on the mask, it goes into a first person.
It's like a first person. And it changes the whole look of the environment around you. Yeah, which is cool.
It's really nice. I think the last thing I want to say is that the rots are very cute.
They're adorable.
Why are they called the rot? Like, is it explained?
It's tied to a something.
Okay. Because they are fucking adorable. And
the whole game was also like, why are they called rots?
Yeah.
There's like a link. So yeah.
You can tell there was a lot of time spent just animating them because they are just like gorgeous little blobs of stuff.
Don't you love it when you walk into a new environment and there's like a cart or something and they're all like teleports, they're just chilling and like the jugs or whatever. They're just there's so much attention to that sort of detail, which is really cool.
And also just like
there goes my footage.
Instead of just like being able to pet them, you can like go down and like actually like fully interact with them, which I think is really cute. So yeah, it's good. I think as well. We should mention that it's a $40 game. It's not a full price game as well. So
super affordable.
I think the production value for that is like pretty astounding.
And worth mentioning. I know we touched on this last week, but it's not. So you can read into this how you want. It depends on how you place value on game, but it's not a staggeringly long game, which to you and me is like it's kind of a relief. Like I don't want a 30-hour game from this. So my playtime is about 13 hours because I spent some time dying on the harder bosses and exploring whatever. But I'd say the average playtime is like 10 hours, which is a really nice length for a $40 game, I'd say.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice.
Would recommend. It's good fun and great game, yeah.